Hello happiness and success family. This video is for anyone out there who finds themselves unable to change their beliefs, their perceptions, and therefore their attitudes and behaviors. So let's dive straight in. So as it relates to our changing our beliefs, it is a rather daunting process when you kind of understand all the different components involved. You know, a lot of people think it's just essentially it's like a glamorized thought, if you will, a thought that's been reinforced, and that's true to an extent, but really it goes above and beyond just being able to change a belief in isolation. There are normally many different elements involved, such as some core beliefs even behind that belief. There are some core emotions, some key events in our past that have created that belief in the first place. You're battling your past, you're battling your perceptions of yourself, and so on and so forth. So to prevent anyone from being overwhelmed from the process, it can happen, and it's definitely worth the effort, if you will, to make these changes take place. So firstly, what is a belief? A belief is it's a neural pattern in the brain. It's essentially when a thought or a cluster of thoughts have been essentially connected but also reinforced over time. So it's the equivalent of, say for example, if this was grass in front of me and I was to walk up and down in a straight line back and forth, what would happen over time? Obviously the grass would degrade and wither away, and it would there'll be dents within the mud, if you will. And that's essentially what a belief is, when something's repeated so often that it becomes deeply ingrained in our unconscious. You know, most of the time when we use words like pronouns like I am, for example, these are oftentimes associated to beliefs, like I am this or I am that. That comprises a belief, and it commands yourself into a destiny, both a destiny in terms of where you are now, but also a destiny in terms of where you might be in the future. So our beliefs govern not just our current lifestyle, but a projection of what our future might be, unless we address them. So let's dive in. So the key thing I want you to comprehend from this video is the importance of identifying the belief. Because when you identify that you have a limiting belief, a disempowering belief, that gives you more control. So what do I mean by identifying a belief? Well, obviously you have to be really self-reflective here, detached from your ego, in order to objectively assess what patterns you run within your brain. It can be quite hard for a lot of people who are used to living in that, metaphorically speaking, that rat race, where they're just living by the day, living in chronic stress, constantly here, there and everywhere, and they're never taking they're not mindful enough, they don't do enough things, that self-reflection, getting a mentor, taking on board other people's opinions, not meditating, not doing new things in order to trigger new thoughts and beliefs in their brains. I'll touch upon that in future videos. And that's why people are unable to identify their problems, because their ego's in the way. Their ego is stopping them from kind of assessing unbiasedly. I don't even know if that's a word, but we'll go with it. It should be a word if it's not a word. And therefore being able to intervene, and that's what this is about. Okay, so we've got thought, which leads to an emotion, which leads to an action. So every single thought that we have in our mind, a thought is just when neurons connect together. When you create new thoughts, that just means that neurons are connecting to other neurons distinctly in a new way. Yeah. So every time you have a thought, it produces a chemical in your brain. That chemical is essentially a feeling, an emotion. Now, if this feeling or emotion is really strong enough, then that will lead to some form of action. Whether you like the action or not, that's what it creates. So this is essentially the pattern, okay? And when you live out these sort of things, over time, because you get certain, I don't know if you can see that, yeah, you can, results, because you get certain results, that's what kind of affirms your belief. Yeah, so when you think in certain ways, and it leads to certain emotions because of experiences that you've had, for example, that leads to certain actions, and when you do this process enough, it will create a certain type of result. Whether you like the result or not, it's irrelevant at this point. That in turn creates the belief. For example, if you have a thought that goes, I don't feel like I'm in control of my life, right? Let's downgrade that. Let's say the thought might be, it didn't work out for me again. Typical. So that's the thought. That leads to the emotion of sadness or despondence. Yeah, that might lead to the action of feeling depressed and poor body language and not really doing anything about your life, and instead just dwelling on the past, which exacerbates the whole process. But anyway, that's another video. So that will be the action, inaction in this example, just feeling sad, hopeless. You know, people don't take action when they're sad or despondent. They actually take more action, even if they're angry, for example, because that's at least, even though I don't agree with it, anger is still a form of fear. At least it's some kind of energy, uplifting energy, even if it's fake uplifting energy, right? So you get certain results. The results might be nothing changing, nothing happening. So you see how this is a vicious cycle, right? And you do that long enough, it's going to create a belief that I am not in control of my destiny. I have no control in my life. I'm at the mercy of the external world. That might be a prevailing belief, yeah? So this is the cycle. Now, what I'm telling you, the main thing I want you to grasp from this video is the importance of intervention. And the sooner, the better, okay? I didn't even mean that, I for identity. I like that. So you want to intervene in this process as much as possible, because the more you interrupt something from happening, it creates space for change. Okay, so let's say that someone's been living this out, the example that I gave earlier. They've been running through this whole process every single day until their body has learned how to execute it better than their mind. Because that's what happens. When you do certain behaviors in certain ways, you begin to associate it with who you are, and therefore the entire process, especially the action, what your body physically does during moments, that becomes an unconscious program. Your body has learned to do it, just like tying your shoelaces or driving a car. Once you've done it successively over and over again, it's just a process that you don't need to think about, yeah? And that's the equivalent of what happens here. You know, 95% of people's perceptions, beliefs, and behaviors are subconscious programs. They don't even have to think about what they're doing. It's just a response within their nervous system, if you will. It just takes, so the body takes over, okay? So the key here is to identify. So say if you had, you know that process I gave you earlier, what was the thought again? I told you the thought might be, the belief was I can't change my life. I forgot what the thought was. But say it was a thought like, oh yeah, it's happened to me again. That was the thought, wasn't it? It didn't work out for me again. Maybe you went for a promotion or something like that. It didn't work out for me again. That's a disparaging, belittling thought, right? So say if you have that thought and you have the next day, because 90% of our thoughts are the same as the previous day, right? Because for most of us, we do the same sort of things the majority of the days, and that's why we don't come up with new thoughts and therefore new results. But anyway, so say you have that thought, it happened to me again, you know, I failed at it again. That's the thought. You need to catch yourself and go, I thought this yesterday. It's the same thought that's popped into my head again, same as the previous day. And normally I feel sad about this time. And that sadness normally results in me staying isolated in my room or my house and not really going out and socialising or working and actually getting things done. So you might go, you know what, I had this thought yesterday. Yesterday sucked. I felt sad, low energy, wasn't good. You know what? No. So you might have that and then intervene. And then instead of feeling sad, you might feel angry or frustrated. And you know what, I need to do something to change my predicament. Now, any negative emotion is related to stress and therefore related to fear. So I'm not advocating things like feeling frustrated, being impatient, being angry, but at least it instigates enough emotional leverage to kind of instill change and create that space that I called earlier between amongst this pattern, so that you can step in and change it over time. So the first part for changing a belief is to identify the issue whenever it arises. Identify the thoughts, catch it early, because if you know, once the emotion gets involved, you know, I have a lot of clients who say to me, listen, Alex, I struggle with changing the emotion in the experience. Yeah, because you're letting it get too far. You know, you're thinking of certain thoughts for creating a certain emotion. That emotion triggers another negative thought. That negative thought triggers another emotion until it's strong enough to create some sort of action. So this process, there's a massive feedback loop between your thoughts and your emotions, constantly going back between your neurotransmitters in the nervous system, influencing your hormones and emotions in the endocrine system, and constant feedback between the two. So you're going to need to intervene early so that it doesn't lead to the action. And that's what's going to enable people to actually step back and go, you know, I did this pattern yesterday, it led to me doing this, that and the other. No, let's calm down, deep breathing, gather myself, life is fine, think of things that I'm grateful for, change, shock your system, change your emotional state, and therefore be capable of influencing your behaviors, and therefore, influencing your beliefs, therefore influencing your behaviors and being able to ultimately change your life, whether it be to improve your health, your wealth, your relationships, anything in your life. It's all about our beliefs. Our beliefs govern everything. So if you like this video and you want to know more and you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and also click the notification bell, because every single week I release several videos, but also episodes, podcasts, really long-winded quality videos that I can't upload in all its entirety on other social platforms. So you're definitely going to want to subscribe. Have a great day. Stay strong.